Hello dear students, my name is Ankita and I am teaching as an assistant professor in Department of Computer Science and Engineering and in Bachelor's of Business Administration. I welcome all of you to the online lecture series of System Analysis and Design, and this is the subject of BBS exam. And in today's video we are going to learn about system design, the components of system models, system development life cycle and categories of information. So to recall the topics from the previous video or lecture 1, we studied system definition there, characteristics of the system, classification of the system. To recall your concepts, characteristics of a system includes the organization, independence, integration, and the last one is the objective of the system. And classification includes physical or abstract systems, open or closed systems, adaptive or non-adaptive systems, permanent or temporary systems, natural and manufactured system, and so on. So system is a complete unit which is a collection of various subcomponents, and they are connected with each other to form a complete system, and that system is going to produce some output for the organization. So system is anything like which takes input, process it and gives you the output. And that output is related, or output you can say, that is the objective of your system. So in this video we will begin with the system design. So designing is the procedure of how we are going to accomplish the objective of the system. And this is the process of planning a new business system or replacing the existing by defining its components or the modules to satisfy the specific requirements. These requirements are the prerequisites for the objective of the system. And obviously when we are going to create any system, new system, then we have to study the old systems thoroughly, uh, which are similar to your current system, so that you can design or you can create a better system to achieve the proper objective efficiently. So your system analysis and design focuses on three things: system, processes and the technologies. We are right now doing various concepts related to systems. So next we will study the elements and the components of the system. So any system, whether it is hardware or software, they are designed to achieve some objectives. So these objectives will take input, then process it, then and then it will produce some output. So as you can see in the diagram, we have 5 units here, and which are input, output, processor, control and feedback. Besides these we have boundaries and the interfaces, and the sixth one is the, for the seventh one is the environment. So we will study each of these individually. Input and output are the information which are given to the system to get processed and produce some output. Output is the outcome of your processing basically. Processor is the main element of the system that involves the actual transformation of the input into output, and it is the operational component basically. Processor can change the input partially or totally, but that also depends on the output specification or the expected output by the user. As the output specification change, then the so does the processing also, and in some cases input is also modified to enable the processor for handling the transformation. Like if you want to change the output specification, then you have to change the input also, and then you have to change the logic as well. If at one time I want to add two numbers, then I need to write a plus b, and on the other time I want to divide these two numbers, then I have to change the logic also. The processor will understand, you know, that operator as the division operator. So instead of plus we should put the slash operator there. And control, obviously in any system, control unit is very much important, and this is the element which guides your whole system. It is the decision making subsystem that controls the patterns of activity that are going inside your system in terms of input, process and output. And it also specifies the how the computer system is behaving. Okay, so for example in our computer systems we have central processing unit, but central processing unit contains control unit separately, so it is going to handle all the instructions coming inside the CPU, and then how the processor is getting those information processed. So all such things are handled by control. Feedback is a technique to provide the proper instructions to the control. Okay, in a dynamic system, positive feedback basically is the routine in nature that encourages the performance of the system, but the negative feedback, which is informational in nature, that provides controller with the information for the action. So negative feedback requires the proper action, or positive feedback encourages the performance of your system. Next is the environment of how environment factors affect your system. That it is a super system within which the organization operates also. So it is the source of external elements that strike on the system, and it determines how a system must function. For example, vendors and the competitors of an organization's environment may provide constants that affect the actual performance of the business. So in terms of computer system, environment can be a server room wherein you have put your server, and if there is so much, because the server produces so much heat and it processes very fast, so your server room should be cooled enough in the high temperature. So such type of external factors that defines the environment, so that also affect your system. And by looking at the environment of the market, on the basis of that you are going to produce some products, or according to that you will provide products in the market, so that you can enhance the productivity of your organization. So next, last one is the boundaries and interface. This is the you can say the boundaries defines the range within which your system should work. Okay, so a system should be defined in its boundary also. Boundaries are the limits that identify its components. Each system has certain boundaries that determine its sphere of influence and the control. The knowledge of boundary of a given system, that is crucial in determining the nature of its interface with the other systems for the successful design. Because the system can have the interaction with other systems also, then boundaries and interfaces define certain conventions that my system is going to take input from the other system also. So while interfaces we define such things, and boundaries define so within which limit my system should work. So next are the system models. We have semantic models, flow system models, static system models. Let us see them individually. Schematic model is a 2D chart basically that shows the system elements and their linkage. So, and the different arrows are used to show the information flow. This is similar with the data flow diagram, as we are going to study deeply in these incoming videos also. So schematic model shows representation in terms of diagrams or the flow charts. Flow system model is a model that shows the orderly flow of the material, energy, information that hold the system together. Like if I have put an online order for in some online shopping website, then how I'm going to proceed. First of all, I need to enter my user details, login and login ID and password. Then it goes for the verification to the account section, or to the section which is handling all the user input. Then it will show me the window which I am having, or it will show the cart which I am having, or whatever I have added into my cart. Then this is the flow, how I am proceeding, or how a company letting me to proceed when I want to purchase something from their website. Okay, this is the program evaluation and the review technique also. So for example, it is used to abstract a real world system in the model form. So flow system models are also used for the program evaluation and the review techniques of your system. So static system models represent one pair of relationships such as activity time or the cost quantity. a Gantt chart, for example, gives a static picture of any activity time relationship, like how the things are moving, how the functions are happening inside your system. That is shown by the static system model. So obviously they represent the relationship as the activity and its time. So if we have cost, then cost belongs to which, to what quantity. If we Okay, so next is we have dynamic system models. Dynamic system models uh, actually are, they are the dynamic systems, and they defines the uh, role of analyst also, and they define a model to approximate the type of organization or the applications that analyst is going to deal with. And it also shows the ongoing constantly activities inside your system, that is input which we have given to the system, and the processor through which the transformation takes place. So it's also take care of the activities which are changing constantly inside your system. So these are the system models which represents how a particular system can behave in terms of handling the data or the information. So to handle the information, we can show the information flow using flow system models. Schematic model is also another 2D chart that shows the how elements are linked together. Okay, so how the, for example, if we take any online shopping website, then if I put an order to purchase something from that site, that my order will go to the uh, account section, or you can say financial department first of all. Then I have to pay there, and then it will move to the sales department. Like from sales department they are going to issue the product for me, or sales department further can communicate with the courier company. So this is the flow or the linkage of the different units of a complete system. Okay, so static systems and dynamic systems also. Static systems which remains fixed, like activity and the time, cost and quantity. In terms of these things you can define system static system models. And dynamic systems are the belongs to the activities or the information which is constantly changing, which is not fixed. So category of information, you can have three types of information: strategic information, management information, and operational information. So these level of information occur at different levels of management. Like on very upper level there are strategic information. The upper management will provide you strategies that how you should go further to implement certain objectives. And the middle level management can have management control information, like you have with various managers of different departments. So under those managers you will be having a team, so team leader will be there. So it goes like that. And the lower level management comes the operational information, like the programmer, the one who is writing the code, which is working with a team. So that is a part, that programmer is a part of programming team. So that is the lower level. Okay, so system what is supported at different level of management, that is DSS, decision support system, management information system. And the last one is the operational system, that is DPS. So we will see the individual level of information, like what comes in strategic information. This is the information which is required at the topmost management, and for long range planning policies for the next few years. For example, trends in the revenues, financial investments, and the human resource and the population growth, etc. So these are the examples in terms of business management. Okay, so if these examples will make you more clear with the strategic information. This type of information is achieved with the help of decision support systems. And managerial information contains the information which is used or handled by the management, which is at the middle level, and which remains only for short and intermediate range of the planning in terms of months. For example, your sales analysis, cash flow projection, and annual financial statements. So it is achieved by the MIS, management information systems, basically. Operational information contains the information which is used at the lower level of the management and which changes or which exist on daily basis. Like short term planning is there to enforce the day to day operational activity, for example keeping employee attendance reports, etc., overdue purchase orders. So I think these examples are well enough to, because they are totally core, they are totally related to your business management concepts, so you can understand that. And operational information is achieved by the data processing system. Okay, so these are the actual mm, place where any employee or the, you can say, the programmer is writing its code, or UI developer is creating any user interface. Okay, so apart from these above topics, SDLC, system development life cycle, is the very important topic next in your subject. SDLC is system development life cycle. So whenever we proceed to create any system, it contains certain phases, and these phases are connected with each other, so that output of one phase is acts as the input of another phase. So in this system analysis and design, we have requirements, design, implementation, testing, deployment, operations, and maintenance. So these steps are more clear, will get more clear by looking at the diagram here. So the diagram says a lot in itself. Like here we have mentioned planning also. So these phases can be changed with the, you know, can be changed with the other names also. Some at some places you will be having the name as planning as the first phase or the requirements, then design and implementation. Even software development life cycle also very much similar to these phases. So whenever we are going to create any software or any system, we have to uh, follow these phases. And if we create any system strategically, like by following some proper steps of execution, then we definitely get a productive or very useful system out of it. So the phases contains, first one is the planning, which says that in this planning we obtain the approval for the project or initiate the requirement feasibility or requirement elicitation, and then assess the feasibility plan and schedule. You can say that at very first phase the the requirements are gathered from different clients, and in those requirements you take the input from the client, that what are what are the features they want to get included in their system. Okay, so second phase is the analysis. At some places requirement and analysis can combinedly be studied. So in analysis we have to understand the business needs and the processing needs also. Analysis uh, includes these two things. Next is the design. Design defines the solution of the system based on the requirement and the analysis design. So with the help of DFDs we draw the designs, and then we have make we have to make those designs approved from the upper management, and then we have to proceed for the implementation. Implementation is the construct, test, and the train users that in or install new system. Means we are deploying the system, for which all the above three phases were followed. The implementation contains the final execution or the deployment of your system. Then maintenance is the timely looking after of your system, that whether it is working under different uh, environments or not. Okay, so these are the main your phases of your system development life cycle. Here in these steps, these are very much similar to these phases which I have shown in the figure, but they are little elaborated. They are little detailed. Like instead of planning, we can have requirement analysis combinedly. We can have requirement gathering. So requirement gathering is done by various requirement elicitation techniques. Then after requirement, we should design it, we should design, DFDs, that how my data or the flow is going to transfer from one module to another module. Then comes the implementation. Implementation is when is when or where we are going to construct the design. Okay. And or if we have developed the system, designed the system, then coding must be there. If we are talking about any software system, then implementation will also contain coding part. Then after coding, then we need to deploy that particular system for whatever organization we have created that. Testing contains the applying test cases under different time intervals, and then by looking at the outputs we can see that our system is working properly. Deployment again comes. See, you can say that as I'm going through with these phases more belongs to your software development life cycle, whereas for the system development life cycle these phases are enough. Okay. So see, deployment is separately here. So implementation here contains coding. Implementation here means coding of the software which you are going to develop, then applying test cases to perform the testing. Deployment is the uh, actually installation of your software. Like if you have created any hospital management system, then deploying that software into their system in the hospital. So deployment contains that. Then operations and the maintenance are certain reports or the timely maintenance issues or the problems. Okay, so after deploying, certain companies they provide some services to the clients also, so that system can be managed or maintained properly. So these phases mostly belongs to software development life cycle, and in system development life cycle you can replace requirement and analysis with the planning. So system, because system can be anything, that can be hardware or the software or any informational system as well. So here are the further points of your these phases. Like planning involves the defining the problem and the scope of the existing system, that whether we can create those systems or not. Overview of the new system and determining the objectives. Confirm the project feasibility and produce the project schedule. So these are the further functions of each phase. During this phase we may face during this phase, threats, constraints, integration and security of the system, they all are taken care by the planner or by the person who is responsible for planning phase. Or at last a feasibility report is ready for the entire project, so that is which can be fed to the next phase as an input. So analysis and specification contains gathering, analyzing and validating your information, that defines the requirements and the prototypes for the new system, that evaluates the alternatives and the prioritize the requirements, that what requirements should be considered first and on the second and what on the third step. Then examine the information needs of the end user and enhance the system goals. uh, so the output of this phase is called as SRS document, software requirement specification, which specifies the software, hardware, functional and network requirements of the system. As I said that every phase is having certain output which is fed as input to the next phase. So this phase produces the SRS document, whereas in planning or feasibility phase we have created just a report, so that we will that report will be saying that developing such system is feasible or not. Okay. So system design includes the design application, network, databases, user interfaces and system interfaces. So whatever number of modules you are going to have in your system, that how they will be connected with each other, so, or what will be the storage mm, provisions for each module. Then system design also transform the SRS document within the logical structure, and which contains the detailed and the complete set of the specification and can be implemented in the programming language. So this phase also contains also contains a training, maintenance and operational plan. So which can be reviewed later on to propose a proper design. Okay, finally in this design phase, we prepare a design document which will be given to the next next phase. And next phase is implementation. This design document is considered by the implementation phase also, or the person responsible for doing implementation and all. So he or she will implement the design into source code through coding, and it will combine all the modules together, because coding will connect all the modules by using some commands. And a test report which contains errors, that is also prepared through a test plan that includes the test related task and the test cases generation, testing criteria, and the system resources allocation, for testing is also prepared in this implementation phase. So last one is your maintenance and support, that includes all the activities like your phone support or the physical on-site support for the users, and that is required once the system will be installed. So it will also implement the changes that software might undergo over a period of time, or it will implement any new requirement if later on, as the market trend changes. So later on, if we feel that that particular technology or procedure should be incorporated in our system, that is also managed at the maintenance or the support level. So maintenance and support also needed for a longer time for the large system, and for a short time for the small system. So any type of system we are developing following these system development life cycle. So at the end, maintenance and support will be required, whether it is a large system or a short system. So this was all about your SDLC. So SDLC is very important topic in system analysis and designs, and in previous years also it has been asked as a question for about 10 marks. So this was all about today's video. Have a nice day. Thank you.